Here we are with another interview inside of the Funnel Builder Coaching and Certification Program. I am so excited about this one that I think this is going to be one of the most valuable behind the scenes looks. I want to introduce Mike and AJ. You guys, hi. Thank you so much for bonding with us. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Very excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
How does it work? How is that agency growing while you guys are not involved in the day-to-day?
So we have a leadership team that is running the day-to-day, and so across the course of the year, anywhere between 3 and 5 times, we're having meetings to talk about what's going on. And kind of the unspoken kind of rule that we've been living by is, if the agency is growing, then we don't want to meddle, right? They're running it according to the operating system that we created there, and it's the same operating system we teach inside of Agency Coach. If they're using that operating system and they're growing, and they might do it a little bit differently than we would, like we have to sometimes just like hold our tongue and and not step in and start to meddle. It's because we wanted to give them the autonomy to do it their way, and also not put ourselves in a position where like we're the bottlenecks with that. Like I'm done being a bottleneck for that business. We've been a bottleneck for years and years. I've probably been the biggest bottleneck of that business forever. And now I'm out of that. I'm here to kind of be in an advisory role for that. And it doesn't mean there's not times where we do need to step in and say, hey, listen, we need to course correct and go a little bit different way. But we have a set of principles by which we can make those decisions and know whether it's time to step in and have conversations. And we're incredibly proud of the fact that we've been out of the business now at this point for 4 years, but also what the team there has done with it. And it hasn't all been smooth sailing. Like it may sound like from the outside, oh, it's so great. No, it hasn't. But the point is that the challenges that arise, there's a way to handle that. And on the whole, it's been an amazing experience.
Your agency specific, one of the biggest questions all the time is lead generation. Are you guys, what does client acquisition look like for the agency side of your guys' business?
I think the main problem with lead generation is that people don't understand the difference between a lead and a prospect, right? A lead is an unqualified contact that may have expressed some interest in what you've got going on. So like maybe they downloaded a lead magnet or something, but they're not yet in your sales process. Whereas a prospect is somebody that's been nurtured to a point where they're kind of raising their hand, asking for your help, right? And so I think the problem that most business owners face or agency owners face is that they'll do a lead generation campaign expecting it to yield prospects, right? When its only job is to build your list, right? And get people into your world. The missing piece that most people miss out on is the nurturing that needs to happen in between those two things, right? And so they'll do the lead generation. They're like, oh, the lead sucked and I didn't get anything and nobody bought anything. But the truth is, did their list grow, right? Because if their list grew, well, now what are the emails and other things that are going on that are in place to nurture that? What's the webinar that you're having that you're going to get these people onto that's going to allow you to then potentially move them into your sales process? What's the BSL that you're putting in front of them, right? So I think that's the first thing, because like all leads, every single lead in the world goes from cold to warm to hot, right? And I think a lot of times with agencies, we see that they operate and they live off of hot leads, right? Referrals, word of mouth referrals. And when they do any type of lead generation, like they think that's what they're going to get, and what they fail to understand is that person that came to them super hot saying, I asked somebody who builds websites and they said, you got to go talk to Mike. He does the best job over at Anchor Wave. That person that referred you is the one that warmed that cold lead up for you, right?
How in the world are you guys pricing your stuff so you don't want to pull your hair out all the time? Teach us how to do that better.
Yeah, I think there's a few foundational beliefs that I think are important. Like one is always be testing the upper limits of whatever you're pricing, right? Like I've fallen into traps of like, this is as much as I'll ever charge. I think another foundational belief is you need to, the investment you ask somebody to make needs to assume that you're hiring other people to do the work, even if right now you're the one doing the work, because it's really hard to delegate work later on when you're really busy if you haven't charged enough to cover that, right? Like you may say, hey, I'm gonna do all the work myself now, but charge enough as if you were then also paying somebody else, but you just have to be paying yourself to do that work. I think that's another foundational belief. I think a third one is there is no pricing, right? Pricing is a bad word. It's a 4-letter word. There's only an investment, right? That the things that you're asking your clients to do is to invest in your business, because pricing is an expense, right? For investment, there's an expectation of return, and your clients are investing dollars with you, expecting a return in the marketing and the things that you're building. So like, do yourself a favor and just delete the word price altogether from your vocabulary. I mean, I sometimes can't like say it and somebody will like call me out on it, and like, I'm the guy who says don't use price. So like, but just don't do it, because like that also, I think, subconsciously helps you understand the value. I think a fourth principle is you deserve to be paid based off of the value you provide and not the time it takes. You know, just because you spend an hour on it and you put a dollar amount on that, that's you trading your time for money. And you have to understand, like, what is the true value of something that you're providing?
Yeah, and I think you're hitting on a kind of a bigger issue, and something that we solved, and one of the key components of why we were able to create a simple agency like Mike talked about, that's niched down on how deep we go, right? So we have what's called agency productized recipes. We've defined exactly what we're going to deliver for a particular service, and that's what we sell, right? So we don't have a lot of custom stuff. In fact, we call those in our community snowflake projects. Snowflake projects are the absolute worst thing, because they always result in you misquoting it. It gets to the team, and it's a different type of project that they've never seen before. So they're like fumbling the ball, and different things go on. You know, what made running the agency simple is when we simplified the services that we were going to offer, and we only offered them in this way. And either the person that we're talking to falls in line with that, or they don't.
I would just be really curious if you could teach me, what is your agency currently using? How are they communicating internally? How do you communicate externally with your clients? What does that look like for you guys?
Yeah, so internally we're using Slack for communications with clients. You know, if we can get them into something like that, that's great. But you know, a lot of it's, you know, we're big believers in like this kind of communication, right? Where we can have a good meeting with somebody and have those on a frequent basis. I think as much as like messengers and email and all these other ways we can do project management is great, but when you can actually get some folks in a room to actually work on a project, like that's going to keep it moving forward. You know, your client needs to feel like they're supported by a process that you're moving forward on. The point is having a clear plan for communication, a clear next step, right? And knowing that the ball is always in your court as the agency.
What does that process for hiring into your guys' agency look like?
Yeah, for a long time, we believed that like all of the services that we offered needed to be done by somebody that was in-house, right? All the skill sets that we needed to do, SEO or pay-per-click or Facebook ads, we needed somebody right there. The truth was that was really hard to manage, because one, it was hard finding people that even had experience in those things, right? So a lot of times we were having to train people up, and then as soon as they got good at it, they either left or we need another one. Or sometimes, you know, when we get too busy and people are tapping out, they'd be like, we need more help. And then you hire somebody else, but it's not like you have double the amount of clients that next day, right? So now your margin's getting completely eaten up. And so we started relying a lot more on what we call leveraged service partners. You know, at the heart of every service that we provide is a third-party partner or a software solution that's doing 80-90% of the work. And we're just wrapping that with account management, customer service, and somebody that's making sure that those people are doing those things. And so the positions we have now are a lot more just the customer-facing type people, not necessarily people doing it. And so that's really, you know, helped quite a bit with that.
I know people are going to want to go check you out. How do they find you?
Cool. If you head over to agencycoach.com/FBC, we will link up something that's called the Digital Agency Operating System. It's the same operating system that we've been talking about today that runs our business, and other folks have employed in their own agencies as well. It's a free training that you can kind of break apart things like lead generation and nurture and warming up leads and selling high-ticket recurring revenue services. We talk about the leveraged service partner. So if you've got like any piece of that today, it's actually something that we usually charge for that you guys will get access to completely for free over at agencycoach.com/FBC.